Missouri Republican has doubled down on his support for child marriage. So now on Tuesday, State Senator Mike Moon had introduced a bill that would ban gender-affirming care for transgender children in the state of Missouri. Now, during this debate, Democratic State Representative Peter Meredith had grilled Moon about a previous vote that he had taken, which, again, he had voted against banning children as young as 12 years old from getting married. Here is that exchange.
I've heard you talk about parents' rights to raise their kids how they want. In fact, I just double checked. You voted no on making it illegal for kids to be married to adults at the age of 12 if their parents consented to it. You said actually that should be the law because it's the parents' right and the kids' right to decide what's best for them to be raped by an adult. Okay?
Do you know any kids who have been
With
married
marriage.
at age 12?
That was the law.
do you know any
You voted
kids-
not to change it.
Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12?
I don't need to.
I do.
He does. He does. And that wasn't reported? Weird. Now, look, his the bill, by the way, that Meredith was referring to is SB 655, which was passed all the way back in 2018. And what that did is that it just raised the marriage age and set it to 16. I think that's too young. Honestly, I think it should be 18. Okay. But, you know, apparently Moon disagreed and he thought, no. 12 year totally fine. So now after this, his statements got some backlash, understandably, because we're talking about child marriage. Child marriage. Okay. Which is incredibly messed up. And of course, you just have to juxtapose this versus the fact that he believes that transgender kids are not old not old enough to get gender affirming health care and be able to socially transition, but thinks that they're totally fine to get married and have babies. Again, you're old enough to get married, but you're definitely not old enough to know your gender identity or be able to learn about the existence of LGBTQIA+ people. That doesn't make any sense at all. So again, lots of backlash here, rightfully so. Now Moon made a response to it, and of course, dug in deeper.
In this video, an opponent to the bill stated that I voted against legislation that would prohibit a 12-year-old from marrying an adult. He went on to say that I supported adult child rape. This statement is misleading at best. Let me set the record straight. As I contemplated the bill, I was reminded of a couple I'd met years before. When this couple was in their teens, actually preteens, they took actions that resulted in the girl becoming pregnant. The youngsters' parents decided to allow the children to marry. They weren't forced. However, because they were not mature and could not provide for themselves, they grew up with their families in different states. After a number of years, when the children became adults and were able to care for themselves, they began to live together. The couple is still married today. So with this in mind, and because allowances for these extreme exceptions were not included in the language, I voted against the bill. Tragic circumstances such as these can only be overcome through one avenue: the grace and mercy of God.
Jesus. Wow. Okay. So let's get this straight. He takes an edge case where two children, and they were children, had a child and were forced to raise that child. And look, I know the culture, okay? There's about 100% chance that these children were pressured into getting married. Let's be real about this, okay? There's no way that 12-year-old kids are let's get married and raise a baby. No, not at all. I don't believe it. There's tons and tons of religious pressure. Oh, you have to get married. 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 Or else it's sinful. Is what it is. It's sinful. You can't be sinful. You're gonna go to hell if you don't. You better get married. We know. And so because of this edge case, which is again super effed up, this guy says, well, obviously we can't vote to ban child marriage. No, we have to legalize it. We have to make sure that children can get married just to protect those particular people. Because tragic circumstances like this can be overcome by the Lord. But this guy, again, banned gender-affirming care. The thing that is proven to save transgender children's lives. Research has shown that gender-affirming care improves the mental health and overall well-being of gender-diverse children and adolescents, and has been proven and shown to increase positive outcomes. So why do these kids, using Moon's example, even though I know it's BS, I don't believe it at all, right? Why did they deserve to have, I guess, a law that protects them, or I should say their parents, making the decision to marry them off and force them to raise a child, but will not allow parents and the child to be able to have gender-affirming care? That doesn't make any sense. Again, we're not even talking about surgeries. We're talking about allowing them to socially transition. That's gender-affirming care when they're minors, when they're small children, and then later on when they're basically allowing them to take puberty blockers if they and their parents decide that they're going to go down that route. Again, puberty blockers are reversible, and hormones mostly reversible. Okay, surgeries again used in adulthood, and so this argument that you're mutilating children by allowing them to have gender affirming care, it's all BS. So, but he's against that, things that will save trans kids' lives, but totally fine with forcing a 12-year-old to bear a pregnancy. Now, look, I've gone into the details before about the changes that women and birthing people go through when they're pregnant. A 25-year-old woman, birthing person of the same age as well, they end up going through massive physical, hormonal, and psychological changes due to that pregnancy. It destroys your body. You're going to force that on a 12-year-old? It's monstrous. Monstrous. No, it's ridiculous. And then on top of that, then have the 12-year-olds get married? And they think this is some sort of moral stance that you're taking. You take the moral stance with child marriage. No, it's monstrous. No, Mike Moon's clarification, so-called clarification, that ain't much better. In fact, it's disastrous. And it's a double down of basically him supporting children getting married, which should not happen